it's like to commit a crime without having to spend time in jail.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
C is for chunk.
Brought to you by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What up? What up? What up? What up? We are back. Class D2 action in the books. The top seeds in each game advance. Shelton 65-59 over Humphrey St. Francis, and Wynot 53-21 over St. Mary's. Welcome back inside the 93.7 The Ticket Studios. I am Austin Norman, joined once again by the man, myth, legend, walking bucket, Enrique Alvarez Clary.
That last part's a lie. Not a walking bucket.
I have no evidence that you're not.
I'm a walking bucket stopper.
Okay, fair enough. Just as good. We're back for about an hour or so.
I'm just like the 5'4" Wemby. That's what they
Rico.
What's up?
The point of Wemby is that he's 7'4", not 5'4".
I'm 5.
You can't be a 5'4" Wemby.
I'm the 5'4" Wemby.
Maybe to like preschoolers.
Block shots.
Is that how your children look at you?
Steals.
Is the 5'4" Wemby?
My kids look at me and they think that I'm tall. And I'm just like, I'm not. I'm sorry. I've told them that. I'm like, Ellie goes, I want to play basketball and I want to, she's like, I want to play volleyball. And I go, okay, you can. I just
grow like Becca Alec, not like me.
I'm just preparing you for the fact that if you do, you're not going to be playing, in the paint in basketball, and you're not going to be at the net in volleyball. I'm just letting you know that. I just let her know. Just a fair warning.
Right. Since this is the happy hour, I suppose we should mention that we are sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting. Big shout out to them. Again, great time seeing you guys out at the Nebraska Home and Garden Show. Appreciated you guys stopping by. While we're on the topic of the Alex really quickly, I don't think we've talked enough on this station about Josiah's fur coat after senior day.
Fresh. That's all I have.
Fresh.
It is beautiful. It is a beautiful fur coat. I remember he had it on. It was a road trip and he had it on going onto the plane. There was a picture of him and everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's great. Hadn't seen it since then. Busted it out for the senior day presser. Oh, gorgeous.
What better time to bust it out than the senior day presser?
You're not wrong.
It felt, I'm not going to lie, it felt a little audacious, a little bodacious, a little out there. But he pulled it off. He made it work, right? The photo shoots he had with it, the bouncy hair that he's known for, on top of his head, not just on his coat.
Uh-huh.
Job well done on the aggregate, Josiah Alec.
Hey,
job well done.
Shout out to Josiah Alec for busting out the fur coat and for having, the start of the season was a little iffy. As the season has gone on, Josiah Alec has found his role, found his niche, if you will, and has played really well for Nebraska basketball going down the stretch. Hitting some threes, which I
threes only
was not prepared for. Yeah, those are the only threes he's allowed to take.
Yes,
and he is hitting them,
and that's perfect because if he can space out to the corner, the easier of the types of 3-point shots, because it is technically a little closer to the basket. That's great. If he can draw a big man or even a slower 4-man out to the perimeter, if he doesn't have a shot, okay, dribble handoff. But if he's spotted up, open, ready to shoot it, I'm fine with Josiah Alec taking corner threes. Hit the one against Rutgers, the one against Purdue. Mm-hmm. Obviously was a huge shot for him. But Rico, the question that comes to mind in light of Josiah Alec's fur coat, how does his sister one-up him on her senior day?
Ooh.
Text line, let us know, 240-246-45685.
Does she get her own fur coat?
No, I mean, does she wear the same fur coat?
Actually,
because you have to do something different than your brother, don't you?
I know exactly how she one-ups him on her senior day.
How?
With a national championship.
Hey.
That's it.
I mean, she won't be able to win a national championship on her
senior day, but just that year. Like,
what if they,
or maybe the year before?
What if they win an Elite Eight match
this year?
Yeah. What if they win an Elite Eight match? I mean, it wouldn't be senior day technically because that happens at the end of the regular season. But for your last home game to go out by winning an Elite Eight match, does that win?
Nah. I mean, it's better than the fur coat because then you're making it to the Final Four. But it's like, been there, done that, did that, my sophomore year. Yeah. Did that hopefully my junior year. No, it's you win a national championship your junior year, so then you can say your senior year going for back to back. That's the only way.
Plenty to get to here in the next hour. Let's keep the focus on Husker hoops here for just a sec. Rico sent me an article about Nick Saban and everything that went into the process of his retirement that we'll get to here momentarily. But Big Bird on the text line, Rico, says, big game for Big Ten seeding tonight, Northwestern at Michigan State. Nebraska Northwestern tiebreakers, I'm a little fuzzy on Big Bird. Sorry about that. But this is one where I think all the Huskers' eggs should be in the Michigan State basket. Michigan State is behind you in the league standings. You have head-to-head tiebreaker over them. If they beat Northwestern, they knock the Cats down to the same record as Nebraska. And I think that would put Nebraska over them in the standings, which would put the Huskers at 3rd instead of 4th where they currently sit. But again, we've said this all last week. We said it the first 2 days this week. It bears repeating now. If you look at Nebraska men's basketball, all it can control is its effort on the court, how it plays on Sunday against Michigan. And yeah, you're rooting for Michigan State just to, maybe help you out. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter. Play who's in front of you.
Yeah. Look, you want Michigan State to win to help you. But obviously, even if Michigan State wins, if you lose to Michigan, doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot, I don't think. Again, I'm not that clear on the seeding right now, but I think Nebraska right now is sitting at the 4th seed, still in line for a double bye. As long as you take care of business and beat Michigan to end your regular season, you'll stay at that 4 seed. Yes, it would help to move up to a 3 seed, and that would be nice. So then you don't have to worry about facing the 1 seed until the Big Ten championship. But before that, look, you got to focus on getting there first. You got to focus on winning the games that you have to win to get to that Big Ten championship and do all the crazy things that I don't think anybody outside of maybe the coaches and the players had in their goal book or their to-do list before the season started for Nebraska basketball. As long as you can end your season on a high note by beating Michigan, doesn't matter what the rest of the league does, you're still in line for a double bye. If you lose to Michigan and some things fall wrong for you, you could end up, I believe, at the 6th seed right now. Nebraska can go anywhere from the 3 seed to the 6th seed. So, like you said, control the controllables, control your effort, control your defensive ability, control the type of shots that you take. You can't control if it goes in or not, to a certain extent.
Kind of you can, but mostly you can't.
To a certain extent. Do what you can do. Let the chips fall where they may. And as of right now, you will be the 4 seed. You will get a double bye. And look, I don't know about you. I take that regardless. I'm good with it.
I don't know about you. I'm feeling win 22.
There you go.
How about that for a T-Swizzle reference? How about that?
Ridiculous.
A couple hours ago, as we were between Class D2 games, I brought up that resume comparison tool. And while Bill was running the board, doing a great job, by the way,
Did you go deeper?
Took the time. I took it upon myself to dive a little deeper.
Of course you did.
So again, 2013 Wichita State, team that made the Final Four, is on this list. It's really a mixed bag after that. Probably the best comparison that I'm seeing right now is USC last year.
Okay.
So USC last year, its offensive rating was 105.7. Its defensive rating, 98.3. The offensive rating ranked 154th in the country. The defense was 85th. This year, Nebraska's offensive rating, 109.8, is 111th in the country. The defensive rating of 99.5 is 80th. Scoring is up in college basketball. Rule changes have helped. So if you look at those numbers, Nebraska is slightly better on both ends of the court relative to this year's competition than USC was last year. And USC went about it a little bit different way. Led by Boogie Ellis, they had some wings, not a whole lot going on down low. But that USC team last year finishes 22-11 overall. They were 22-10 going into the NCAA tournament before they lost to Michigan State in the first round by 10 points. Some other teams that stood out to me. 2013 Ole Miss. I know Ken Palm's your boy, not Bart Torvik. So yep. I'll put this in your wheelhouse.
Shout
here.
Out to Ken Palm. I'm not even going to pretend to have like a wheel. When it comes to college basketball, I pay attention enough to get by. But in terms of like being an expert like you are, I'm not on those levels. I'm not you read all those Ken Palm and the RPI and the NED and the
no, down with the RPI. It's a bad tool. Bad RPI. Bad.
Torbeck, whatever his name is.
Evan Miyakawa
and all those other ranking systems.
Eric Haslam metrics.
Look, you give me the AP top 25. I got you.
I have my people.
Yeah,
they don't know who I am, but they're my people.
I know what I know, and I kind of know what I don't know.
Fair. Anyways, Ken Palm is saying the team that rates most similarly to Nebraska, again, this is on a per year basis, 2013 Ole Miss, headlined by
why did I just forget his name?
Again, Rico. I tried to tee it up for you.
I know you knew you
Marshall
you
Henderson.
gave it to me. Yeah, there we go. MH.
So the adjusted efficiency rating for Nebraska this year is at 17.21. That's a top 40 mark. You look at Ole Miss, 16.95. The Runnin' Rebs went 27-9 that year, 12-6 in conference play. Pretty similar conference record to Nebraska.
Okay.
They got a 12 seed that year.
Was that the thing is, and this is the weird thing with all of these. Was that a strong year in the instant? Was that a strong SEC year? Was it a down SEC year? Would you consider this a strong Big Ten year or a weak Big Ten year? Because all of those things come into play, and that's the sucky part about it, is because Nebraska right now sitting at 21 wins, and you're like, yeah, this is a really good team. They have all these good wins. But somebody from the outside looking in, we could sit here and say, oh, yeah, the Big Ten looks pretty good. Some of the traditional powers aren't on top, and they're kind of middling in the middle or closer to the end. But, we look at the Big Ten, we're like, yeah, this is still a pretty decent Big Ten year. While somebody who, follows the ACC more closely would look at the Big Ten and be like, oh, the Big Ten sucks this year. Nebraska's a 4th seed.
Which is funny because the ACC sucks. I can say that as a fan of teams in both conferences.
You're not wrong. I'm a Syracuse fan. I understand these things.
Right. And of course, the ACC coaches are going off on the Big 12 for manipulating the net. And that's a discussion we haven't had yet that is definitely worth having, as we are, 11 days away from having a bracket reveal. So next week, we'll definitely start having that conversation.
Exciting.
To your question, Ole Miss finished 12-6, tied for second in the SEC that year.
Okay.
With Kentucky and Alabama, a game up on Missouri, but 2 games back of Florida, who ended up going 29-8.
Okay.
I would say, generally speaking, the Big Ten is just kind of all right this year. I wouldn't say it's great. It's fine. It's still absolutely a power conference, a power league.
Michigan State's still getting a decent amount of looks because they're Michigan State.
Yeah. I don't think this deserves to be a 6-bid league, but it's going to be. Another team that, as I look at these comparisons, by the way, Ole Miss's path, they also played a Big Ten team in the first round, Wisconsin. They beat them in the 5-12, 57-46. And then Rico.
And then
they lost to LaSalle. LaSalle beat Ole Miss on a buzzer-beating layup. I completely forgot about that.
Don't care who it is.
Which is also hilarious because the next team that LaSalle had to play,
yes,
that 2013 Wichita State team in the Sweet 16. Wichita State would go on to beat Ohio State in the Elite Eight and lose to Louisville. But the other interesting comparison when it just comes to resume and team construction to me is, I think, the second most recent team on this list. It's 2017 Oklahoma State. 3rd best offense in the country, 295th best. That's like bottom 60 defense in the country.
That checks out.
So, no, they aren't similar stylistically at all.
No.
But the comparisons are this. Oklahoma State, 20-13 overall, in the ballpark for where Nebraska's at.
Yeah.
In a tougher Big Ten conference. But what stands out to me about them, no surefire NBA talent. Juwan Evans played in the NBA, didn't become a household name, whatever. Phil Forte was on that team. And the freshman on that team, Lindy Waters, who's been up and down with the Thunder, mostly in the G League.
Yeah, he's a G League star.
He is. And then Cameron McGriff is a name I'm at least somewhat familiar with.
Anytime I hear the name McGriff, regardless of who it is,
Fred
McGriff, the
crime dog. Yep.
That's it.
Always.
That's all I got to.
Amen. So there is not, in my head, a great one-to-one comparison for this Nebraska team. Text line, comment section. If you have one, let us know. 402-464-5685. Because again, the numbers tell you USC last year is the most similar team. Ballpark offense, right there defensively. Relative to last year's college basketball scene, USC rates out about 2.5 points lower than Nebraska, but the record's about the same. Will end up about the same in conference play.
Who are the best 4 players on that USC team?
The best 4 players on that USC team. One is Boogie Ellis, who was at one point committed to Duke. Who then where did he decommit and go? Let me ask you that trivia question.
From Duke?
Yes, decommitted from Duke.
He transferred to USC?
No, He did not. He decommitted from Duke to go play for Penny at Memphis.
Oh.
Yeah. And then transferred from Memphis to USC.
Okay. Interesting.
The leading scorers on that team.
I feel like Penny got a lot of commits and then it never panned out.
We need to have a conversation about Memphis again at some point down the road.
We'll do that later.
Yeah. Boogie Ellis led the team 17 points, 3 boards, 3 assists per game. Drew Peterson got an NBA look. Interesting sort of wing guard hybrid. Kobe Johnson, Trey White, Reese Dixon Waters, probably Vincent Iwuchukwu had a role as a freshman, 7'1" dude. Went to La Lumiere in Indiana, 25th overall prospect. So it was really Boogie Ellis. Drew Peterson was kind of trying to think of the best comparison for him. Kind of like a weird Bronson Koenig, Thor Bjarnason hybrid player.
Okay.
But bigger.
Okay.
Iwuchukwu was supposed to take over in that kind of Onyeka Okongwu role. Didn't necessarily do that. So that's a USC team, again, without a whole lot of surefire NBA talent. I don't think Boogie's going to be an NBA player.
That's why I was trying to compare it, because if you're saying offensively, defensively close enough to each other, I was trying to think, okay, if they had a surefire NBA guy, or if they had a guy who teams were flirting with taking, not in the lottery, because that's not what they were, but flirting with taking maybe early second, potentially late first if they tested well. That's what I was trying to think of for Nebraska's comparisons, because you look at this team right now for Nebraska, there's no surefire NBA guys on this roster. There's no guys that you look at and you're like, yeah, they definitely don't have any lottery guys, but there really isn't anybody on this Nebraska roster that you look at and you think, okay, late first round, which is those teams in the playoffs who had pretty strong rosters and are maybe, if they didn't win the championship, maybe a couple of pieces away, and you're not going to fill those with rookies, but just some guys who you think could potentially fill some sort of role. There are no guys on this roster that really stand out that way, but there's some second round guys where you plug them in the G League and you think they have some tools, and maybe if they can develop this, or if they can be a better on-ball defender, or if they can, be a presence in the paint without fouling, or if they can become a knockdown shooter from three-point land, whether it's from the corners, from the elbow, wherever you're going to have them, they have their spot where you're like, okay, they're going to hit, 41% from there. I know that's crazy, but still, they're going to hit 41% from that one spot. There really isn't anybody like that on that USC team or on this Nebraska team. So I guess that would be your closest comparison. But when you look at these two and you look at Nebraska this year, the one thing that they do the best, and that does travel, and it's something that we've been talking about all years, is their defense. Their defense, they're not, you don't look at this team and think, oh my gosh, lockdown defense. They're not a University of Virginia where they're going to hold you to like 30 and they're going to score, 40 and win the game. But they are a team that is scrappy enough defensively that when they're not on offensively, they're usually always in the game because of their defensive efforts.
That makes sense. Going back to that comparison with USC last year and Nebraska this year, just taking a quick overview of some of the stats. Nebraska shoots as a whole 44.6% from the floor. USC was up at 45.5%. Ohio or USC 34.5% from three, 74.5% at the free throw line. Nebraska's at darn near 36% from three and 76% on free throws. Rebounding's where it gets interesting. Rico, if you look at Nebraska, where do you think out of like 360 teams they rank in total rebounding this year? Per game.
Per game?
Yeah. Now, not looking for the number they grab, but the ranking.
But the ranking, I put them after 125.
They're 61st.
Really?
In the country. Yeah. So that's like 83rd, 84th percentile for Husker hoops.
I was to say I'd put them like in the 50th percentile, like right in the middle of the pack. Just because there have been so many games where they just get crushed, just crushed on the boards. And not to say that they don't have a guy that you look at and you immediately think, yeah, that's the rebounder. Right. That's the guy who's going to get you, 12 rebounds a game. They don't have a guy like that. Juwan Gary does a fantastic job offensively and defensively grabbing rebounds. But again, he's 6'6", right? He's not a guy who's banging bodies in the paint, grabbing rebounds, boxing out the bigs. And Rink Mass, Josiah Alec, although they are bigs, they're still undersized bigs, and they're not using their physicality to out-physical somebody to get rebounds. So when I think of a rebounding team, although this team apparently does a fantastic job at rebounding, they're not, you look at them, you're like, yeah, no, we're going to out-rebound that team.
Here's the reason for that. Nebraska's defense as a whole, teams are only shooting 39.6% overall, which is 9th or 10th best in the country. So Nebraska is a top 10 field goal defense. Opponents shoot 45% on twos, which is 18th best nationally, and 31.8%, which is 75th best nationally in three-point defense. Now, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Iowa heated up and beat Nebraska. I still think that's a relative weakness for this team. But what you're seeing is that's a lot of missed shots.
Yeah.
Nebraska in defensive rebounding pulls down 28.2 defensive rebounds per game. Rico, that's top 20 in the country. Here's the flip side of that. Nebraska still, despite pulling down 28 defensive rebounds per game, still allows 12 offensive rebounds per game. So essentially, opponents are going to miss on average, 40 shots against Nebraska. Nebraska will end up getting, see if I can do my quick math here. It would be 70% of available defensive rebounds?
Yeah, I'm not good with numbers.
Yeah,
sure.
So Nebraska grabs essentially 70% of all available defensive rebounds, according to my back of the napkin math here. 9 offensive rebounds per game for Nebraska compared to 25 defensive rebounds per game. So Nebraska's rebound margin is just 0.8. So Nebraska is essentially playing even on the glass. And all last year, Rico, what we talked about was you don't have to win. Just don't get murked.
Don't get destroyed
on the board. And that happened constantly. It's happened once or twice this year, but on aggregate, Nebraska's been better rebounding.
Yeah, don't get out-rebounded by 20.
Right.
And they haven't done that this year.
No.
Outside of, I think, one game.
Well, Rutgers had 20 offensive rebounds
which
the
is
first
just
time.
Ridiculous.
But again, it goes to Nebraska's defense was good. Rutgers' offense was bad. You just didn't finish the possession.
That's the thing, is when you think about it that way, a team got 20 offensive rebounds. Like, they were missing a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Like, that's good defense. It's just the end of the defensive possession. The rebounding was the problem. So, Nebraska is playing really good defense. They just have to figure out a way to corral the ball after a team misses, which they are doing more often than not.
For sure. Last note here on this. I saw this tweet from Ben Stevens, Big Ten Ben, on Twitter.
Shout out to Big Ten Ben.
Big Ten Ben fan here. Nebraska's defense.
He follows me. I don't know why.
Dang.
I think I
talk to Big Ten Ben every week for like a year and he doesn't follow me.
I'm pretty sure Big Ten Ben knew or knows Michael Snow. And I worked with Michael Snow for a while. And we would talk to Big Ten Ben before back when he was Big Ten Ben, before he was, Ben Stevens tweeting out, this is Big Ten West football, like all that stuff and getting all these followers. Before that, we knew him. He was just Ben. He was Big Ten Ben. So now, I got that follow, and now this is kind of a badge of honor.
Yeah. So on Nebraska's defense, again, on the year, you look at Nebraska, Huskers are allowing an average of, 69, a nice amount of points per game, scoring 76 points per game. Rico, Nebraska is 100th in points scored per game, 100th in points allowed per game.
Perfect.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
Love it.
If you ask Josh Brolin.
Yes.
In the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Big fan of that.
Anyways, the point I was making from Big Ten Ben's tweet, Nebraska, 8 games in January, allowed 77.8 points per game, 85 or more 3 times. Those games where Nebraska allowed 85 points in January. Wisconsin ran up 88 on you after you just beat Indiana. Iowa put up 94 on you in Carver Hawkeye.
That was a rough one.
And the surprising one was Rutgers, hitting 11 threes. Not at a great percentage, but better than they normally were against Nebraska. So in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency out of 362 teams, Nebraska was middle of the pack, 167th, very, very slightly above average. Let's turn the calendar to February. 9 games for Nebraska. They've allowed 67 points per game, under 60 points 4 times. They're third in adjusted defensive efficiency since the calendar turned to February. Some of that has to do with the opponents. In January, Indiana put up 70 on you. We mentioned Wisconsin 88. Purdue did score 72 points on you, which is just a bucket above what you're giving up right now on the season. Iowa known for offense 94. Rutgers not known for offense 87. You hold Northwestern to right about maybe slightly below their season average at 69 points. Same then with Ohio State.
Nice.
February, you've played a slate of offenses that is not the same as those. Okay, Maryland, not the same offense, still put up 73 on you. Wisconsin, you hold to 72. That's an improvement. 87 to Illinois in overtime is honestly not bad.
No.
Not ideal. A stop or two here or there would have won that game for Nebraska, but Illinois plays fast. They put the ball in the bucket. 80 to Northwestern, that's, if you split the difference between what Nebraska allowed the first time and what they allowed the second time, that's about Northwestern's average. So, okay, yeah, Boo Booey went off, and then
shout out to Boo
Langsborg went off in the second, or Nicholson, whoever it was, in the second half. Hold Michigan under 60. Hold Penn State under 50. Indiana gets 70 again on you, but then Minnesota, you hold to 55 points. Ohio State at 78 was maybe a little high, and then Rutgers again, 56. The defense has looked better anecdotally, but it's also played a lesser crop of teams. I think both things are fair.
It makes total sense. I mean, you step up your game defensively, and you're facing worse teams. It's the Big Ten. It's a decent league. But you're facing worse teams. You step up your game defensively.
Well, worse offenses.
And worse offenses. And then something that has been strange the past few years, Nebraska towards the end of the season has just figured out a way to get hot at the end of the season, which sucks because you've been cold at the beginning of the season. You start winning games at the end of the season, too little, too late. Yeah. You go into the Big Ten tournament, you do some things. For whatever reason, February is very kind to Nebraska. Maybe it's the Black History Month jerseys. It's Black History Month, Keisei Tominaga. It's a thing. It happens. You can't bury it. It happens.
Did you see that? I think it was the National Association of Black Coaches named Dalton Knecht of Tennessee their Player of the Month.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He is decidedly not black.
No. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know how often they've done that, but it was just a really funny look.
Quick question. Is Nebraska allowed to wear the Black History Month jerseys during the tournament?
Great question. My thought on it, without knowing the rules,
they play better in those jerseys.
They do. They are very close to the traditional home whites. If Nebraska would have to be the 8, the 7, or the 8,
okay,
to be able to wear those, unless for some reason the higher seed wants to wear their color. So my guess is that no, you will not see Nebraska in the Black History Month alternates. As cool as they look,
take them with you.
Just in case.
I'm just saying.
Fair enough. Let's throw it to break. We were going to talk some Nick Saban. Rico sent an article, but we'll do that on the other side here. Why did Nick Saban retire? Hear it from his own mouth. Hear it in his own words. We'll tell you the story next.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Sainert and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Although we can't control the air we breathe outside our home, we can make a healthy difference inside. And all it takes is a call to Bryant. With healthy air options, Bryant can help you eliminate allergens, odors, and harmful chemicals, all while controlling indoor humidity levels at the same time. If it's time for a breath of fresh air inside, it's time to call Bryant. Breathe easy, breathe healthy. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. We do whatever it takes.
Hi, my name is Molly Party. I'm a realtor with MP Dodge Real Estate. I'm a newly licensed agent and considered numerous brokerages before deciding on MP Dodge. I chose the company that gives me the most support in my new career, plus guidance and encouragement along the way. MP Dodge has a unique mentoring program for new agents. It's helped jumpstart my career and has a supportive management team and administrative staff. So if you're contemplating a career in real estate, look no further than MP Dodge. It will be the best decision you make.
After the snow-packed winter we've had so far, people need some green, which is good because Cash Blast from the Nebraska Lottery is back. Until April 2nd, buy a 2x2 ticket, enter the voucher number, and you could win $5,000 or $500. If your winning voucher is from a 7-day draw ticket, your prize is double. There will be 7 weekly drawings and 14 total winners in Cash Blast. So slide into your nearest Nebraska Lottery retailer and play to win some green today. 2x2 top prize odds, 1 in 105,000.
Liberty Law Group is committed to the defense of liberty for those accused and the pursuit of justice for those injured. Liberty Law Group's relentless trial attorneys specialize in criminal defense and personal injury law. Navigating the legal system can be stressful, overwhelming, and full of uncertainty. We believe in treating every client with respect, compassion, and understanding. When you're in need of legal assistance, trust Liberty Law Group to fight for you. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. That's 877-42-LIBERTY.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Spring is here. It's time to get back outside and into proper shoes this year. Brown Shoe Fit is the place to buy this spring with their sale on athletic shoes. Get $15 off any regular price athletic shoes with respected brands like Hoka, Brooks, New Balance, and On Running. And don't forget, Browns carries a large arrangement of sizes and widths to fit your feet properly. Start your spring off right at Brown Shoe Fit, just south of 66th and Q in Lincoln.
Southeast Community College invites you to check out our spaces ahead of your official campus visit. Our virtual campus tours let you see our campuses and learn more about our programs of study. Then you can schedule your individual visit in person or virtually. Virtual tours of our campuses in Beatrice, Lincoln, or Milford, and our learning centers are online at southeast.edu/visit SCC. SCC, your path to possible.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
The Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see mainly cloudy skies, but it will be mild. We'll see an afternoon high around 61. Tonight, mainly cloudy skies continuing, a little around 39. And tomorrow, rain likely, especially in the afternoon. We'll see an afternoon high around 57. I'm meteorologist Kyle Klecker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Not many businesses can say they've made it 60 years, but Madsen's Bowling and Billiards can. With 12 bowling lanes and the biggest pool room in Nebraska, where else would you go to enjoy an afternoon or evening? There's a great daily specials like $2 Tuesdays, games of bowling, shoe rentals, draft beers, and tacos, all just $2 each. Have a delicious burger at EJ's Lounge before or after your bowling or pool session, and you'll leave satisfied. Madsen's Bowling and Billiards at 47th and Dudley.
Are you in the market for a new garage door or need to repair your old one? It's wintertime, and that means snow, wind, and freezing temperatures, all things that can cause sticky locks and damage to your garage door. If you're experiencing any issues with your commercial or residential garage door during the winter months, call Cameron Hall and his team at Doors Plus. Don't be trapped outside in the cold because of a poorly maintained garage door. Call Doors Plus today at 402-590-5800 or visit them online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors and more.
You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert.
I don't believe you people.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people?
Sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the pseudo happy hour here on 93.7 The Ticket. I am Rico. Austin Orman has stepped out to take care of a little bit of business on the other side of the glass, but I am joined by the one, the only, the best shooter that I've ever seen, the sniper from deep.
That's right.
The man never misses, and if he does, you never saw it. Jake Bachman.
Yeah, I'll say if I do, I'm shooting again to make up for it. So look out.
Get the rock, pass it back to him. He's gonna make it. He's gonna make it. I promise you that.
I was just wearing my. I have a long career of not winning anything, and we just won a couple championships this last year. In championships is just men's league or whatever.
Still counts.
And they divide it, so it's not even the best. Like, it's the best for my bracket or how well we did in the regular season. But I was very proud of it. And then the other night I went to play, and my team was getting blown out so much that they put in like an 8-year-old, and he had a couple threes on us. So I was like, it was good. It was good. It kind of brought my my confidence back to where it probably should be, where I was sitting there thinking for a minute, hey, I'm finally a champion. Like, things are going right for me. And it's like, oh yeah, sometimes kids can be you.
Oh,
so.
wait. Kids
Like,
in here
okay.
dropping shots. He's like, what's up, man? And you're just like, okay, we're not doing this right now.
I don't feel good anymore.
Speaking of kids, and this is gonna be like a super short segment, and then because we're gonna get back on track, kind of, sorta. But Nick Saban, we all know he retired, stepped away from the Alabama program. Probably, I don't know, maybe done coaching. He'll be like advisor for Alabama. He still has his office down in Tuscaloosa. But an article came out kind of detailing some of the reasons why he decided to step away. And as many people probably suggested and many people thought of, NIL and the transfer portal had a decent effect on Nick Saban. This article, there's multiple articles. This one that I have open is from Bleacher Report, and it's the title says, Nick Saban, quote, 70 or 80% of Alabama players asked about NIL game time after the season.
Yeah, I think you probably should. Right? I mean, that's kind of the modern age. I get it sounds bad, but yeah, it sounds about right. Especially if you're Alabama. We've mentioned it before. Like, Nebraska gets Alabama transfers in, and we just lose our minds. We're like, that guy's one of the guys. We got a dude. So I think like those guys, especially on the transfer market and of any school, I would think asking about NIL, I think you'd be at Alabama.
So we're going to go to a break. When we come back, I'm going to read you an exact quote from this article. It was when Nick Saban was speaking with ESPN's Chris Lowe. He lamented that his message to the players wasn't connecting in the way that it used to. I will read that quote when we come back from our break. You're listening to the Happy Hour on 93.7 The Ticket.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
A team succeeds when they work together. Banking's no different. At UBT, we're in your corner for every financial move you want to make. Your money's backed by a roster of experts who put in the work to know you and your community. So whether you're opening a savings account, buying a home, or planning your future, you always know who to turn to. Working together toward your financial goals. That's a win in our playbook. Union Bank and Trust. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. It's $5.99 barbecue time. Hurry to Hog Wild for a complete barbecue meal that's only $5.99. Get a one-meat sandwich loaded with our award-winning barbecue, plus your choice of a classic side and drink for just $5.99. Upgrade your sandwich to beef brisket for just $1 more. Join us for lunch or dinner in Lincoln at 3210 Cornhusker Highway. Order online at GoHogWild.com.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
Jake Sorensen here for The Body Shop. My wife is nearing her due date with our first child and has been in need of a good massage as her body continues to change and adapt. Dennis and the team at The Body Shop were incredible with the prenatal massage that she's still talking about today. I was also able to get a deep tissue massage, so it was a great bonding experience and a unique couples massage in general. If you're in need of stress relief, book a massage today at thebodyshoplincoln.com. The Body Shop at 48th and A.
Attention all Nebraska basketball fans. The NCAA tournament is coming soon, and Nebraska looks to be on its way to their first appearance in 10 years.
Better Tree Removal wants to celebrate the occasion and any possible success in the tournament by offering a deal. If you're in need of tree removal on your property, call or text Todd by March 20th. If Nebraska wins the first round game, you'll get 25% off the bid. If they win 2, you'll get 50% off. You must contact Todd at 402-780-1377 before March 20th.
This is Brad with Midwest Bank, proudly serving our Nebraska communities for over 70 years. We're a community bank, making local decisions, supporting local organizations, and helping local businesses and farms succeed. We are dedicated to serving our clients and helping them meet their financial needs with sound, innovative banking solutions. From an array of checking and deposit accounts, cash management services, to small business, real estate, and ag lending. We're here for you. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank. Find out more at midwestbank.com. Member FDIC.
Attention all Nebraska basketball fans. The NCAA tournament is coming soon, and Nebraska looks to be on its way to their first appearance in 10 years. Better Tree Removal wants to celebrate the occasion and any possible success in the tournament by offering a deal. If you're in need of tree removal on your property, call or text Todd by March 20th. If Nebraska wins the first round game, you'll get 25% off the bid. If they win 2, you'll get 50% off. You must contact Todd at 402-780-1377 before March 20th.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
Okay, it's time to sell the house. How do we even begin to choose from the hundreds of realtors in town?
Easy. We make a pros list.
You mean a pros and cons list?
No, just a pros list. We need someone with pro photography to showcase the house in the best possible way, pro marketing to make sure we get maximum exposure, pro negotiations so we know we get the best price.
This is one of those times where you already know the right answer, isn't it?
You know it is. Ben Bleicher and Professional Realty Group.
Contact Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's Home Services Ambassador. Online at prg-ne.com.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
You did feel the need to cuss in this one. Yeah, you cannot be this mentally fragile. Act like you're a damned NCAA tournament team.
Listen, I'm not going to change the way I tweet.
Do you think Fred saw the tweet? Do you think Fred saw the tweet and called a timeout and they're like, Sorensen's upset? I got to get this.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
This isn't the real Caesar's Palace, is it?
What do you mean?
Did Caesar live here?
No.
I didn't think so.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
I mentioned before we went to break that Nick Saban had some words for after he retired, and everybody should read it. So if you go to, Bleacher Report, ESPN, any of those sites, you can find his interview with Chris Lowe, and it's pretty interesting. It's really long, and there's a lot. But it's pretty interesting what Nick Saban had to say after he retired as the head coach of Alabama, as probably the best coach ever.
Yeah, he's the GOAT. Yeah, he's the GOAT.
He's definitely the best coach in college football history. But I mentioned, I told you guys that I would be reading this quote directly from Nick Saban in this article, so I'm going to get to that right now. It's decently long, but it's pretty interesting. So from Nick Saban in the Chris Lowe article, quote, I thought we could have a hell of a team next year. And then maybe 70 or 80% of the players you talk to, all they want to know is two things. What assurances do I have that I'm going to play because they're thinking about transferring? And how much are you going to pay me? Our program here was always built on how much value we can create for your future and your personal development, academic success, and graduating and developing an NFL career on the field. So I'm saying to myself, maybe this doesn't work anymore, that the goals and aspirations are just different, and that it's all about how much money you can make as a college player. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's never what we were all about, and it's not why we had success through the years. Thinking back to the Alabama teams of the past, it was always they'd sign a top 5 recruiting class, and you wouldn't see any of those freshmen until they were juniors and potentially if they were really good sophomores. As it's gone on, I mean, you every once in a while you would have that phenom freshman that would start play right away because, I mean, they're just that good. But for Alabama, it was always you knew what was going to happen. And this is, from talking to former Huskers, it was the same thing back in the 90s. You knew when you got here as a freshman, you probably weren't going to play. You were going to redshirt, and then you had a better chance of playing your sophomore season. For Alabama, that's how it was for years. No matter how good you be the best recruit in the nation, guess what? You're sitting the bench, you're redshirting until your sophomore, junior year. You're going to play 2 years, and then you're going to go to the NFL because that's what Alabama players do. And now hearing from Nick Saban, 70 to 80% of the players are asking after the season ends, okay, what can you, how do I know that I'm going to play next year? How can you promise me that I'm going to get some playing time next season? And how much am I going to get for staying here and for playing next season? Because if I wanted to transfer to, Michigan, if I wanted to transfer to LSU or Ole Miss, like they're going to give me this much. And they've already told me that I'm going to play next year. And as Nick Saban, you're sitting there like, dude, I've put like all of the NFL in the NFL the past like 12 years. What do you mean? You don't have to play next year. I'll get you to the NFL. You only got to play a season. Trust me. I could do it. I've done it before. And I can understand why Nick Saban is sitting back thinking like, man, maybe this isn't. And look, it's not the whole old school, new school thing. It's just Nick Saban and the way that he's done things. And it's not that he couldn't change, because obviously he was able to change with the times as it went on. But sometimes it changes too much and you just can't get around to going along with it. And it seems like that's kind of what happened to Nick Saban, where the change in college football, in the dynamics of college football, just got a little bit too much for him. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna step away before anything happens.
I mean, if he wants a little bit less of that, he could go back to his home state of West Virginia, probably coach the Mountaineers. You wouldn't have as much of the roster doing that. So, I mean, if he really wanted to, I think he could probably find different ways around this. I mean, I think a lot of it, has to do with his age. I only say this, and I'm not trying to go against the words that he's saying, right? I mean, he's saying it, so don't let me tell you that he's wrong.
He said it's not wrong. It's not bad. It's just different.
I just think that Nick Saban, part of the reason I respect him so much and would call him the GOAT, even though he has only 2 undefeated seasons as opposed to Tom Osborne's 3, is that
come on,
sorry, take that, Saban. But it is his ability to adapt and change over time. Now, again, this is the biggest change that we're seeing in college football in quite some time, but it's been changing in an ever-changing landscape. From, you kind of think about his first title was a BCS title, and I think his first 4 were probably BCS titles. So I mean, you just kind of think about the different changes and the way things have changed in college football over that time. I always give him a lot of credit for being able to adapt to the change, because that's what you hear sometimes, like you said, is the old school versus the new school approach. And some guys say, well, they just can't adjust, but then you see guys that cross over and are able to do both. So I don't know. I think if Saban was 10 years younger, he might still have the same complaint, but I think he'd still be coaching.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick 10-second pause for station identification.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
You mentioned his age, and another part of it, he did say that those weren't the reason. Those reasons with NIL and the transfer portal weren't the reasons why he retired, but it was, it was a contributing factor. Another contributing factor, which is something that I feel like we've talked about before, and we definitely talked about on the water cooler, Rip to the water cooler, is that Nick Saban has had to hire so many assistants as the years have gone on, because you get when you go 1 year to the Nick Saban school for coaches who don't coach good.
That's right.
And you get yourself a head coaching job somewhere else. And he's highlighting that he's grown weary with having to replace multiple assistants on his staff every year. They had 5 different offensive coordinators and 4 different defensive coordinators from 2017 to 2023. That's just a ridiculous number of offensive and defensive coordinators having to relearn an offense, having to relearn a defense. Kind of understandable with some of those players that ended up transferring out. Like, look, I've had 2 different offensive coordinators in the last 2 years. Like, this is just ridiculous. And Saban told Lowe in recent years coaching that when he was hiring coaches for those spots, they wanted assurances that he was going to stay for 3 or 4 years, which he couldn't give because look, he's getting older. Like you mentioned, it's his age. he's getting up there in age. He can't tell 4 years from now, who knows? Maybe I decide to retire in 2 years from now. So some of those assistant coaches, maybe some guys that might have gone to the Nick Saban school for coaches who don't coach good, decided to go somewhere else because Saban said, I cannot guarantee you that I will be here for 4 years, but I will be here for at least one more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always interesting as coaches get older. I know Tom Osborne kind of struggled with that too, near his retirement age. I think more so with the players than the coaches, but there's a story out there about him promising to hand Frank the reins at one point in time. So, yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to be at the top, and he's as opposed to Bill Belichick, who we kind of thought the same thing with him for years. His assistants were leaving and such. Is that his?
But they weren't good.
Saban's are successful. That's right. Is that Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart and now Steve Sarkisian? I mean, you're not just losing guys; you're losing top names, and then you have to go play them in the SEC. So, and they have some of your secrets. So I can kind of see how that would be taxing as well. And so I like that he's kind of putting in a lot of contributing factors, stresses that kind of add on to him. But I still kind of think you're still facing age there. I mean, the average American wants to retire at 65. He's 72. At some point you want to enjoy what you've done. And what more is there to prove if you're Nick Saban? What does 8 titles mean more than 7? And maybe we could say you do it in a different age, do it with a 14-team playoff or whatever. But just fascinating to kind of hear. And obviously, when we talk about enjoying retirement and all that, and he's, being on College Game Day and stuff, he's still going to be around football. I think that'll be just enough for him. I have a feeling he's going to get that itch and want to coach. He'll probably be able to fight against it. But I think this first season on College Game Day, goes out on there in the sideline. Somebody does something stupid. He's just, he wants to tell him,
And that's going to be the best part of it is having those newly retired. And that's something that I really like about what's been happening last is like having some of those newly retired or fired coaches on those game day or the likes, big noon kickoffs, like things like that, is you get that like raw reaction of like, oh, he's still got, and look, you never lose the coaching brain, but he's still got the like fresh coaching brain where it's just like, oh no, what do you like? and that's where you get the best, like the best analysis from. So I'm really excited to see Saban on College Game Day and hear what he has to say about these things. And especially like, hopefully we get some more like Saban stories from his time at Alabama, because I feel like there's so much there that hasn't been told, and like you're not going to get all of it, but just some of the things from Saban and some of his just being able to like kind of pick his brain on College Game Day depending on what's being asked and what's happening. Like I'm really excited for that.
And I wonder if he's going to kind of, I mean, it's going to be funny when he kind of lets loose a little bit, right? Because he's always just kind of this monotone, grumpy personality. And as you transition to a TV personality, you can kind of change that a little bit. I don't know if Urban necessarily, has done that, but it's kind of the same. I always loved Urban Meyer on commentary, just because it's kind of like Nick Saban. Like he said, anything he says about football, you're just, your ears up against the speaker, because what he says is gold in college football. These are all-time greats. Saban a little bit more than Urban Meyer, but even I've always thought Meyer was one of my favorite commentators, whether they have him on Big Noon at the big desk or when he was doing color commentary.
Yeah, Urban Meyer has been really good on the commentary side of things for a few years now. And again, really excited to hear Saban on the commentary side of things. We do have a comment from X, from Rocky Mart, says, now that teams were openly able to pay players like Alabama had for years, it leveled the field. Well, again, in this article, Nick Saban says, and I mean, this is just him saying, so take it for what it is, which is it's from his mouth. But he said that ever since the NCAA adopted the name, image, and likeness policy in June of 21, it's been controversial, but he expressed enthusiasm for it in 2022, saying he was, quote, all for the players being able to make money. You're going to say that. I mean, especially 2022, you're a coach and you're trying to get a player like, oh, yeah, I'm all for you guys making money.
Well, we've seen Dabo fight against it and what that's done for him.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's truly how he feels, but that's what he said. So I'm going to believe it. And I mean, Dabo openly said he did. He did also say when the players get paid, he was going to stop coaching, and he's still coaching.
Yeah.
But look, leveling the playing field with Alabama and being able to pay players, allegedly with Alabama paying players before that. Allegedly, there's no proof. They've never been caught for anything.
Right.
So again, allegedly,
Not recently. Not
say,
Saban.
Yeah, not Saban. You could say that it leveled the playing field, but even if it leveled the playing field, they were still in the playoffs year after year. They just weren't winning the championships for the last 3 years, which is the longest that Saban's ever done.
Talking about a top 5 finish each of the last 4 years, in a title, of course, 4 years ago in 2020. So, I get
how
that
much
too.
did it level the playing field if they're still top 5? Like, it leveled the playing field with 6 other teams.
I think Kirby Smart leveled the playing field, right? I mean, I think that's what the story is. Like, Alabama lost those titles in part because they didn't beat Georgia, and that was especially the first year where they. And then to be fair, they split with Georgia. They just didn't beat them at the right time, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second year, they didn't get their shot at them. Didn't win enough games to get there. So I get the whole Nick Saban is scared from anybody comment is kind of silly. I get it. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit more, but do you expect a lot of like this 14-team playoff and NIL and all this stuff? And sometimes you can see it in recruiting rankings, like some of the top recruits, maybe it's a little bit more scattered. Do you expect any difference when we get to the Final Four? I mean, I think we're going to get generally the same teams that are going to be in the mix.
I think generally, I don't disagree with, like, generally it'll be the same, like 6 teams, but I think that it's going to be better because you'll have one of those teams that every once in a while you're going to have a team that you didn't think was a top 4 team that sneaks in there because they get hot at the right time. And I understand that you don't like the whole, championship shouldn't go to the team that got hot. It should go to the best team.
It's not up to me anymore. It's a big playoff. So.
Well, look, I mean, even if a team gets hot, if you're the best team in the land, you should be able to beat them. That's just my take on that. But I'm really excited because you're going to get matchups that you haven't been able to see before, haven't seen in a long time. And you'll be able to see these top two, like, I'm trying to, so Tulane 2 years ago, last year, like, that would have been a really fun team. Maybe they don't beat Alabama, but the way that their offense was able to run and the way that they were able to just put up points on seemingly every drive would have been really fun to see that kind of team against one of the top 4 teams. I understand you kind of saw it with TCU going against Georgia.
And Tulane
what
beat
happened,
USC in the
what
Sugar
happened
Bowl.
there. But yeah, you saw Tulane beat USC in the Sugar Bowl. So it's really interesting that you're going to be able to get some of those matchups where you're going to get, think about Boise State back in the day if they had a chance at a national championship. I mean, they went out and they beat Oklahoma. Yeah, it was a couple trick plays, but still, they beat Oklahoma, and it was a great game. So being able to see some of those teams go up against the powerhouses, and then it might end up leveling the playing field a little bit more in terms of recruiting, because you'll have some of those higher level recruits who will see a team like that hold their own for the most part against a team that everybody thinks is just the top dog. And you're like, you know what? If it's their home state school, it's like, you know what? Maybe I will go there. Maybe they're missing, a couple of pieces. Maybe it's me and a couple of my friends, and we'll end up going there. And then you'll get just this whole, I don't know. I keep using leveling the playing field. I can't remember the other word for it, but
parity.
Yeah, parity. That's the word I'm looking for. You'll get more parity in college football, and some people like it, some people don't. I'm a fan of it. I would love to see a little bit, a little more parity in college football.
Well, and I'm excited for the playoff, even though I've been against expanding it. I understand that it'll be very exciting. I don't know if you're going to have a whole lot of the 14 or 13, 12 seeds end up getting to the top 4, even if they get hot at the right time, right? I mean, I just think usually there's a big difference between those teams, but I do think the parity is going to help out a little bit in the fact that schools like Nebraska, Texas A&M, Tennessee, teams that have historical and vast amounts of interest can now throw their money not just at coaching staffs. They can throw it a little bit more around and help build up the roster. And I still think Matt Rule's a genius. I know this is like, now that we've got Dylan Riley, everybody's kind of focused on the next thing. But you look back at this offseason and kind of the change in NIL and all of that, and the story remains to be told. We'll see. Maybe Dylan rises Nebraska from the ashes, and I know that's what we all hope. But regardless of whether it happens or not, the fact that he went to that press conference and told you what the going rate for quarterback is, I think brought Dylan in. I think that's pretty much was the sound alerts to say, hey, that's what we'll do.
We know how much it costs, and we're probably willing to spend it.
Yeah, and so that's. I can't wait to see, because Matt Rule is, as we talk about old school, new school, and all that, and he's come from the old school. He's got a lot of mentors in that realm, but he's adjusting on the fly quite well. So I can't wait to see what they do. And but yeah, I mean, I think to me that's where the parity would be a little bit more. It's not going to be North Carolina State all of a sudden is going. Sorry, Wolfpack.
Let's talk about the Wolfpack.
But you get what I mean. Like middling schools aren't going to be able to rise from the ashes. It's going to be the historical teams that have not hired the right coach for the last 20 years. A Miami or somebody comes to mind like that as well, where the money is there, and they can now again grab some players to go along with the coaching staffs, because as we've seen, just throwing whoever's the top of the market, it's the top of the market regardless of what you're paying. So throw them a bunch more money doesn't necessarily help you. And we've seen that at Nebraska and especially Auburn.
Yeah. Part of that, I'm excited to see some of depending on some of the coaches, the coaching adjustments that happen between teams that don't really ever face each other, and just seeing the contrasting styles of a Big Ten Oregon versus an SEC Oklahoma and things like that.
So that's so confusing. I don't even know what styles we're talking about anymore.
I don't either.
Because Big Ten Oregon, what is that?
Yes,
that's not the Big Ten style.
Big Ten Oregon is
it can be though. They've run some power football.
Big Ten Oregon is Ohio State, right?
Again, they could be, but they've been running some power football, so you got to give them some credit.
We're gonna send it out to the guys out at PBA. What's the game on tap next, Bach? You got the schedule right in front of you.
I do have the schedule right in front of me. I have no clue what time it is. I think it's 1:30.
Yeah, 1:30.
All right. I think we've got Creighton Platteview then set for you from Pinnacle Bank Arena.
Big fan. Is it a Class A game? Isn't it? I don't know what it is.
Is it really 1:30?
It's 1:30. 1:30.
Yeah, I believe PBA. That's the 1-8 game in Class B.
1:30 from Pinnacle Bank Arena. Today is the 6th. Nope, it is Bellevue West and Creighton Prep. Yeah, the 6th. You were looking at the 7th.
I can't read.
It's okay. Game 1 of Class A, number 1 seed, 24-1, Bellevue West going against number 8 seed Creighton Prep, 17-7, coming at you live from PBA. Nick Sainert and Jay Foreman will be bringing you that. That's it for the Pseudo Happy Hour here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Hog Wild's giant stuffed baked potatoes are anything but basic and really hit the spot when you're craving a little comfort food. Nothing is more satisfying than a Hog Wild baked potato loaded with butter, sour cream, cheddar cheese, bacon bits, and chives. Add your choice of a Hog Wild house smoked meat like pulled pork, chicken, or brisket for a little extra. Order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.